Being called average is usually, if not always, taken as an insult. No one wants to be called average, especially when it comes to looks. An average looking face is forgettable, undesirable, and has absolutely no level of attraction or appeal whatsoever. And you can either cry about it or you can do something about it. And this video is going to show you exactly what you can do as an average looking guy, step by step, to become noticeably attractive. It's incredibly straightforward, and with consistent small improvements across the most important areas of your face, you can become unrecognizable from your starting point. And I promise you, this video is not going to be another get a haircut, smile, shave, and all that rubbish. It's going to have changes that are actually linked to the female gaze, physical attraction, and male aesthetics. Improvements that are actually associated with more attention from those who you're actually trying to attract. Before making specific changes to your face, it's important to understand appeal, levels of appeal, and what matters when it comes to attraction. Here's my scale of appeal. This is what I use for videos, for clients, for members inside the community when it comes to rating and tracking progress. Because in reality, ratings are not as important as people make them out to be, because there's a lot of subjectivity. This channel is mainly watched by men, but there are over 500 women watching this channel, and a lot of them will disagree with the ratings that I give, and that's fine because there's always preference involved. In reality, the ratings, as mentioned, are purely just adding some numeric value to appeal and using that number to track progress over time, which is something you'll learn more about inside my private community, because that's how we approach becoming better looking. It's slow and steady. There's no shortcuts, but we systematically improve and track progress over time until there's a huge gap from the starting point and the current appearance. When it comes to ratings, universally, ratings are usually very inflated. A lot of people think they're a lot more attractive than they really are, but in reality, the majority of people watching this video will be average. That's just how bell curve statistics work, and not everyone can be highly attractive. The problem is a lot of social media will change the perception of what is normal, because the majority of people shown and pushed on social media are highly attractive, and it leaves people feeling terrible about themselves. But in reality, the average person doesn't have appeal. There's no attraction there. As an average looking person, you're not unattractive, but you're not attractive. And on my scale of appeal, this is around a 4.75. So anything below 4.75 is unattractive. And noticeable appeal and attraction begins at a 6 out of 10. A 6 out of 10 is when there is noticeable appeal. And the difference in life experiences between someone who is noticeably attractive and someone who is average or even unattractive is completely different when it comes to the opportunities you're given in all settings of life: dating, social, financial. The more attractive person will get more of these opportunities. That's just how life works. It's not fair, but it's just the way it is. Okay, so if you're watching this video as an average looking person, the chances are your facial composition is suboptimal. And if that's the case, this means your face looks rounded, fat, bloated, chubby. It has no angularity, no definition, no clear contours, outlines, borders. If that's the case, you need to lose facial fat, debloat, tighten your facial skin, and develop your facial muscles. I'm not going to waste any time on this because I go into that in depth in a previous video. So after watching this video, go and watch that video, because it's the first step to becoming noticeably more attractive. Having a face that isn't angular, doesn't have any noticeable development or definition, is going to make you look a lot more juvenile, a lot more childlike, neotenous, unattractive. It's so important to signal high levels of sexual maturity when it comes to physical attraction and appeal. And this is one of the best ways that you can do that, because the chances are, if you're watching this video, you probably don't have optimal facial definition. There's always room for improvement when it comes to facial definition and angularity. The next thing is hair. So with hair, there's a lot of mistakes. And what I find most commonly with the average looking guy is that they have a very boring, default, plain looking haircut. This is the short back and sides haircut. It's incredibly boring. Hair is supposed to add to the face. It's supposed to conceal flaws, balance disproportion, and shape the face properly. Hair can completely make or break your appeal. So if you're an average looking guy watching this video, the chances are you probably do have a very boring default short back and sides haircut. If you don't, great. If you do, what you need to do is grow out your hair, strategically. If you don't know what length to go for based on your hair type, I have a free downloadable PDF in the description below. And you can see yourself based on whether you have straight, wavy, curly or coily hair. It shows you the exact length that I recommend for optimal appeal. So go have a look at that, download it and apply it, and make sure you're following the guidelines on that to maximize your appeal. So that's what you need to do. Growing out your hair to fit optimal female gaze is essential, and you're going to go through a lot of awkward phases when you grow out your hair. That's fine. You just got to push through them. And yeah, getting it reshaped occasionally as you grow it out is also very important. The next thing you can do with hair is increasing the volume and character of the hair to stand out more, to have hair that doesn't look very flat, boring, and a very simple and effective way to improve the character and the volume of your hair. The first thing you want to do is completely avoid shampoo. Using shampoo is going to completely destroy any character or volume in your hair. It's going to make it fall flat, look boring. So instead of shampoo, you can use egg yolk. I know it sounds absolutely ridiculous, but it's a really, really good alternative to shampoo. It completely cleans the hair on the scalp. It leaves it feeling silky and not too flat, where you lose the nice character in the hair. Your hair won't be left smelling eggy, I promise you. Just make sure you use lukewarm water. You can let it sit for a little bit in your hair if you want to, but typically it's best just to wash it as you would with shampoo. The next thing you want to do with damp hair is use a sea salt spray. I highly recommend you save money and just use a made-at-home mixture of just sea salt and water. And you can add a light oil as well, which is definitely recommended, of argan oil or jojoba oil, and then either just air dry it or use the inverted blow drying technique. And then once it's dry, add a light mattifying hair powder. And the difference between doing this and not doing this is very noticeable. Now that you've sorted your hair out, the next chapter is going to be looking at the eye area. This is the most important area of the face, easily. So maximizing it is essential. As an average looking guy, the chances are your eyebrows are going to be suboptimally shaped, lighter than ideal, and sparser than ideal. So what I recommend is using a very simple dye. You can use a beard dye or whatever dye you want. That includes a small brush, and you want to darken your eyebrows, usually, rule of thumb, anywhere from 10 to 15% darker than they are right now. The aim is to match the tone and color with your head hair as close as possible. Not only is this going to make them look more dimorphic, masculine, and attractive, it's also going to increase the perceived density of those eyebrows, which is also very important. It's also going to help to increase the medial length, as it's very important that the medial aspect of the eyebrow matches or slightly passes the medial canthus. And in most cases, for average looking guys, this is not the case. So it's going to help with that a lot. When it comes to shaping, you want to flatten the tops very subtly and trim the lower outer region very slightly. This is going to help to reduce the arch, increase the perceived tilt, and reduce the severity of the eyebrow tail, which is one of the only feminine features on a male face that I highly advise avoiding, as it's very unappealing on a male face. The next thing you want to do with the eye area, the chances are you probably lack eyelash visibility. So increasing the fullness and visibility of the eyelashes is your next step. And to do this, you just want to use castor oil to increase the fullness and thickness of the eyelashes, both the upper and the lower eyelashes. And then you want to dye them subtly. And as a rule of thumb, you want these to match your eyebrow tone and color. This is a really, really important aspect for improving the appeal of the eye area within the female gaze. There was this really terrible trend with Turkish barbers for trimming the eyelashes, which is just going to completely nuke your appeal. Really, really bad idea. Don't do that. The chances are you probably have loose, deactivated lower eyelids. This is making your eye slightly too tall, large, and rounded, which is typically very unappealing. For an attractive eye area, as a man, you want to have narrow, sharp looking eyes. So the best way to do this is by increasing the lower eyelid tightness. It's very, very simple, easy to do. And realistically, you only need to increase it by anywhere from 0.5 millimeter to 1 millimeter. There's a lot of talk that eye exercises are a load of rubbish, but I personally tightened my resting lower eyelid appearance and flatness by about 0.5 millimeter from consistent training. I've mentioned the specific routine in previous videos, so go check those out if you want to learn about that routine. And yeah, I'm trying not to repeat myself too much in these videos, so I want to keep the information new and fresh in every video. There will sometimes be a little bit of overlap, but I try not to repeat myself too much. So increasing the tightness of the lower eyelids is going to help to also increase the perceived positive tilt of the eyes, which is really important, and also remove any scleral show if that is something that you have currently. Okay, so the next change that you need to make is improving the perceived health of your eyes. And the best way to do this is by increasing the whiteness, the brightness of the sclera, and reducing the visibility of blood vessels, any dullness, irritation. The best way to do this is by having a foundation of good health and diet, and you should follow the phase 1 diet, which is mentioned in this video in depth. So make sure you follow that. And also you'll want to start using eye drops as well. They're typically called fake tears. They don't have the vasoconstrictors or any other additives in them. They're a really good way to keep the eyes looking healthy, bright, and hydrated. Not only is having white sclera very important, but also increasing the contrast between the iris and the sclera is really, really important, which is one of the major reasons why a limbal ring is really, really appealing, because it increases that contrast, decreasing your upper eyelid exposure. Whilst eyelid exposure is highly attractive on women, on men, that's not the case. So reducing your eyelid exposure by anywhere from 0.5 millimeter to 1 millimeter will really, really improve your appeal. And typically having anywhere from no upper eyelid exposure to around 0.5 millimeter to 1 millimeter of exposure is optimal. And you can do this with the orbicularis oculi training, the frown muscle training, producing the tension in the frontalis muscle, and also medial eyelid pulling. The exact routines for all of these are outlined in my course inside the community. And finally, as an average looking guy, the chances are you probably have some level of dark under eye circles. So reducing these noticeably is going to really improve your appeal, because dark eye circles will make you look tired, ill, and aged. So this is going to very negatively impact your physical attraction. So to reduce the dark eye circles, not only do you need to understand what they are, you need to understand which types or causes you have, because usually it's more than one cause. And finally, you need to do the bare minimums to reduce them, and also targeted treatment for your particular type of dark eye circles. A lot of dark eye circle products are complete scams. If you struggle with dark eye circles, I have a guide below that's completely free. Just check out the link in the description. You can download it and start applying all that information today. And yeah, I promise you it doesn't include any rubbish like putting cucumbers on your eyes, or there are no product links or anything like that. It's just a bunch of value that's been condensed and is avoiding all of the rubbish that is usually talked about when it comes to dark circles. So it's going to save you a lot of time, a lot of money, and a lot of effort. So the next chapter, we're looking at the nose. So the average looking guy will have a slightly wider nose than ideal in relation to the rest of the proportions of their face. So to reduce this size, you can either reduce the actual size of the nose, or you can reduce the perceived size of the nose. When it comes to reducing the actual size, a lot of this links in with inflammation. So follow the phase 1 diet. It's going to help to reduce your systemic inflammation, specifically with the surplus of vitamin A that you're going to be getting from the diet. When it comes to reducing the perceived size of the nose, you can do this in a lot of ways. First way to do this is increasing the perceived width of the mouth. And you can do this with facial hair, having horizontal emphasis of the mustache to help stretch the perceived size of the mouth, which in turn is going to help to reduce the perceived width of the nose. You want to increase your jaw, which we'll talk about a little bit later in this video, your neck, which we'll also talk about a little bit later as well. And you also want to increase the perceived size of your head, which you can do with more hair, which was talked about previously. And growing out the hair and having horizontal emphasis of the hair will help to increase the perceived size of the head and reduce the perceived size of the nose. So from the chapter on the hair, where you've planned to grow the length of the hair and also increase the volume and the character, this is going to help to reduce the perceived size of your nose, which in most cases of an average looking guy, this will help to improve your appeal. So yeah, increasing that jaw width and also neck width, we'll talk about a little bit later. That's also going to help to reduce the perceived width and size of the nose. Okay, so now we're moving on to the mouth region and the philtrum. Face length is really, really important in male aesthetics and also female aesthetics. But when it comes to face length, this is very closely tied in with the philtrum. And the philtrum is the distance between the tip of the nose and the upper lip, and one of the most important facial features for an attractive male face. So when it comes to having a long philtrum, this is usually linked in with a thin upper lip. So increasing the volume of the upper lip is going to be very important, as the average looking guy will also tend to have a thinner looking upper lip. You can either do this with a very subtle upper lip filler or topical volufiline. So this is going to help to reduce the length of the longer philtrum, which is most likely going to be the case for an average looking face. This is going to help to reduce the length of the face and also increase the appeal of the mouth region, which is really important. As I've talked about in previous videos, when it comes to appeal and intimacy, obviously the mouth is very, very important when it comes to this. A wider looking face is essential for male dimorphism and appeal. So reducing the perceived length is very important, but also increasing the perceived width is very important as well. And by having the additional hair length and character and volume, you're also going to be doing that as well. Another method, which is talked about a lot on this channel, is having a stubble or a short beard to reduce the perceived length of the philtrum. I talked about this in the deep dive video on facial hair, so if you haven't already watched that, it's definitely worth watching. And finally, with the mouth, linking back to ensuring that the mouth looks appealing and attractive is making sure the mouth and the lips are healthy and hydrated. So removing any sort of dryness, any chapped look from the mouth and the lips is essential. So definitely should not be neglected. It's very common for guys to neglect this, and it results in a very unappealing mouth region. And finally, with the mouth region, making sure that the teeth look white but within a natural range, no staining, no yellowing, and making sure that they're straight. So if you need to hop on clear aligners, do so, and get your teeth professionally whitened. Really, really good investment. As an average looking guy, you probably have teeth that are slightly stained and slightly unappealing. So stained, yellow looking teeth are very, very unappealing. It's usually a deal breaker when it comes to physical attraction. It's a very, very good investment. And I'm not talking about having bleached teeth. Obviously this looks dreadful. Don't get your teeth bleached to a unnatural level of whiteness, and definitely don't get veneers as well. Both of these are very, very unappealing. Okay, so the next changes we're going to make are going to be with the skin. Skin is one of the most important aspects of appeal, physical attraction, specifically within the health pillar. And it's a very good opportunity to signal high health, and as a result, increase your appeal significantly. As an average looking guy, the chances are you have a little bit of acne, or maybe a lot of acne. The skin looks dull, textured and rough, maybe noticeably visible pores, and you probably look slightly unhealthy when it comes to skin tone. So here are the changes that you need to do for skin. So firstly, the phase 1 diet is the most effective way to reduce and completely clear your acne. So watch the video on that and make sure you fully lock in, no cheating. If you have anywhere from moderate to severe acne, I'd highly recommend an elimination diet. So super strict. When I had a lot more acne, I personally did ruminant meat, liver, and water. And yeah, this is really, really boring, but it's highly effective. Acne is a very extreme aesthetic issue. So an extreme intervention such as an elimination diet is definitely not a crazy thing to consider and may save you from having to go on Accutane, which is preferable. Accutane is still a really, really good option for people with persistent and very severe acne. When it comes to removing acne from the face, every day you have acne on your face is potentially going to be increasing the chances of deeper scarring. Acne scarring is another battle that you have to deal with after clearing your skin. So make sure you're locked in with the phase 1 diet. I've had multiple members inside my community reporting that their skin is completely cleared from the phase 1 diet. If you're wanting to see effective improvement when it comes to your skin, you need to be serious. You need to lock in with the diet, and you'll see some very noticeable improvements, if not total clearing. The next thing is fixing the rough, textured, dull-looking skin. The best way to do this is with microneedling. This is not with a derma roller, it's with a pen device. And it's a technique you can use to increase your collagen synthesis, to smoothen the skin, reverse any signs of premature aging. And in my opinion, microneedling once a month with anywhere from 0.5 to 1 millimeter depth with hyaluronic acid is the best and only skincare you realistically need, and one of the best self-investments you can make. You can get a pen and a few years worth of needles for like $40 on AliExpress or Temu, and it will keep your skin looking youthful and highly appealing for a very, very long time. Derma rollers suck, derma stamps okay, but the best technique for creating micropunctures and increasing collagen synthesis is hands down the derma pen and microneedling. Finally, with the skin, tackling an unhealthy skin tone. So tan comes in two axes, the melanin axis and the carotenoid axis. So to increase your melanin tan, you want to increase your sun exposure from anywhere to 10 to 30 minutes a day, and you want to support optimal and healthy melanin production. And you can do this easily with the phase 1 diet, which is going to include all the micronutrients which are really, really essential for healthy melanocyte function. Those are copper, iron, zinc, vitamin A, vitamin B12, L-tyrosine, and also vitamin C. And for an occasional, temporary, and instant increase in perceived melanin tan, you can use self-tanning drops, which you can add to a moisturizer or just straight to the face, are going to help to increase your perceived melanin tan temporarily. They're a quick fix. For increasing your carotenoid tan, you can take beta-carotene, lycopene, astaxanthin. Typically, people will either use beta-carotene or they'll use the combination of lycopene and astaxanthin. I'd advise taking around 25,000 IU a day for beta-carotene, and for the combination of lycopene and astaxanthin, you can take 50 milligrams of lycopene and 24 milligrams of astaxanthin every day. It typically takes around 2 months for a noticeable carotenoid tan, and once you reach that, you can just lower the dose to maintain that tan. So on top of the more warm, golden, orange tone that you're going to get from increasing your melanin axis and carotenoid axis, you also want to add a reddish tone, which you can get from increasing your blood flow and maximizing blood circulation and oxygenation. This is going to help to promote a warm, red, healthy skin tone and avoid that pale, cold and grey looking tone. You can do this from increased iron and vitamin C, which you can easily get from the phase 1 diet. I'd also recommend mild to moderate weightlifting. This is going to help to improve your oxygen delivery and hemoglobin levels. Finally, with skin, the average looking face will have typically skin that's on the drier side, and having a noticeable glow of the skin is essential, and it really, really improves your appeal. So you can do this with proper moisturization. And what I typically recommend over chemical-filled moisturizers and other skincare products is the tallow balm. And here's a really, really simple recipe for that. And using this tallow balm, this is a lot better than having just straight up beef tallow on your face, because as you may or may not know, beef tallow smells like beef. You don't want a beef smelling face. So the castor oil in this tallow balm is going to help to mask that smell. It also contains calming properties for the skin, especially if you have eczema. It's going to help to calm down that eczema. So this is a really, really good option to give your skin a noticeable glow. You want to avoid using too much, which is going to make your face look really greasy and glossy. Glossy is not appealing. A subtle skin glow alone can really take someone from unnoticeable to noticeably attractive with just that simple change. We're nearing the end of the video, but there are still 2 major improvements that you should make to become noticeably more attractive. So the chances are your jaw is probably slightly too narrow, and this can be due to slightly suboptimal bone structure, but more often than not, it's usually due to underdeveloped masseter muscles. So developing and hypertrophying the masseter muscles are going to be really, really important here. And you can do that with these 2 routines. And again, I'm not trying to repeat myself too much in these videos, so I'll pop them up on the screen, start using them. They're highly effective and they're going to really improve your appeal. So adding some actual width to the jaw is going to be very important for improving your masculine dimorphism. A well-developed, angular and wide jaw is always going to be more appealing than the more narrow, undeveloped jaw. There's always room for improvement. Just make sure that you're within the golden zone, which is anywhere from 87 to 92% the width of the cheekbones. You can also grow a stubble or a short beard. This is going to help to increase the perceived width and development and structure of the lower third, including the jaw. And as a last resort, if your jaw is noticeably narrow and very undeveloped, and you've worked on developing your masseter muscles for many months and you're not seeing desirable improvement, then you can always go for subtle jaw fillers, which will typically last for around 6 to 9 months. But can be very appealing if done very well, subtly, so it's not noticeable that you've done them, obviously. And of course, you're in the position where your jaw is very noticeably narrow and looks undeveloped. So this is the last chapter of the video, and we're looking at the neck. On average, most guys have a noticeably thin, undeveloped and weak looking neck. This is going to really negatively impact your appeal. So improving the thickness is not only incredibly easy, but it's one of the most effective things you can do as a man to improve your appeal. So again, I've mentioned this before. Here's a routine on the screen, follow it, and make sure you're naturally and comfortably progressing to anywhere from 10 to 15 kilograms in your first month and prioritizing safe and effective form. All of the information that I talked about when it comes to phase 1 improvements, such as the jaw, the neck, all of that can be found in my free guide, which you can download in the description below and follow, just to have those notes to refer back to instead of having to watch the video and skim back and find where you need to be. So go download that easily accessible resource down below. The aim will be anywhere from around 1 inch to 1.5 inches of additional thickness of the neck, and that's circumference. So you can measure your neck now just to make sure, and you want to be within the golden zone, which is 92 to 96% the width of your jaw. Don't go past that thickness, you will look worse. Be sure to stay within the golden zone to maintain optimal appeal. If you follow all of this advice and apply it, you can gain anywhere from 1 to 2 points in appeal. It's really, really that easy. If you found this video helpful, make sure to like it and subscribe if you want to see more. All right, take it easy.